you have played India, you have represented the country. Not maybe for many matches, but all the matches that you played were legendary in itself. So how does it feel to be a part of a legendary team and a legendary atmosphere?
You always, as a boy, you always want to play for the country, and that's the
Yeah,
dream. You start preparing everything. So then all the milestones which are part of the journey, like playing for the club
yeah,
cricket, school cricket, then company cricket, obviously then you're getting selected for first class, and then obviously the ultimate is to play for the India in test cricket. That
yeah,
journey you cannot describe in words, and it's just you have to experience that feeling, which is surreal to when you stand on the field representing country. It's a goosebump moment.
yeah. And what was that feeling when you first got that India cap, especially in test?
So actually, there's a story to it. Leading up to that selection, I had a very good
Yeah,
season, first class season. I was one of the highest
yeah,
wicket takers for Mumbai and one of the top five bowlers in Indian who took the wickets. We
yeah,
incidentally Mumbai won the Ranji Trophy also in that year, and I played a decent role. I
yeah,
contributed to Mumbai's win during the journey. So I was kind of confident that eventually I'm going to get a call to play for India
yeah,
because you feel that you've done well consistently for
yeah,
3 years and you've been part of the wickets. People are talking about you, selectors are talking about it. So you know that the call is not too far away. And when we were in the camp in Bangalore,
yeah.
uh, okay,
Main
now
city.
it was Bangalore.
Yeah,
We were, and I think there was no NCA there. I mean, they had BCC had a center there,
yeah,
and we were in a camp. So Indian team, not Indian team, but the probables of
yeah.
Indian team camp there, and I was part of it. And when the selection committee sat down in Bangalore, I remember Abby Kuruvilla was my room partner. I was in the
Okay.
shower after the
Yeah,
practice session, hard practice session, just getting freshened up. That's when the phone in the room rang and Abby called me, Nilesh, jaldi bahara. I said, what happened? I thought the call has come from my home. And he said, no, 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 तेरे लिए call hai. And that's when the news got broke to me by the secretary of BCCI saying that you're selected and you're part of the Indian team who's traveling to Sri Lanka.
getting Marwan Atupattu out on the first ball of your test career, of your international career, it is one of the best feelings for someone to take a wicket on the first ball. Like you always dream to, just get your run up in, and you just want to deliver the first ball. But you deliver it so well that you get Marwan Atupattu, one of the legends of Sri Lankan cricket and world cricket for that matter, getting out on the first ball. So tell us about that moment as well.
I think for that I need to give credit to our captain Sachin Tendulkar because
Yes.
without him I probably wouldn't have got the opportunity to bowl that last over of the day. And
Yeah.
I mean, he thought about bringing me on.
Yeah.
Looking at the scenarios. There was a last over of the day, and there's a different story to this. We had about 30 seconds for me to do the warm up and bowl the
Yeah.
first ball. Otherwise, the umpire was telling me in my ear saying that I'm going to call it a day if you don't bowl your first ball. So
Okay.
what you said about getting prepared, getting stretched mentally, physically, targeting, all that, I did not have time to prepare anything. My focus was only to make sure that I bowl that first ball and India does not lose out an opportunity to bowl that one
Yeah.
extra over on that day. So for me, it all happened into that fast track mode, the fast forward process, what you say. And
Yeah.
fortunately for me, my only constant thought in my mind before bowling that first ball was, Nilesh, don't let yourself down. Don't embarrass yourself. You've come
Yeah.
on your, you've come thus far working hard. Make sure your first ball is remembered well,
Yeah.
and the rest is history.
Being from Mumbai, representing domestic cricket, growing up, there must have been coaches who must have advised you to try fast bowling, because as a tall guy, you are always inclined toward fast bowling because you can generate pace and bounce. But in Indian conditions, spin is the most likely option for a bowler. So, were there any such moments early on when you just picked up the ball in your hand?
Obviously, when you are a kid, you do everything. Like,
Yeah,
no, I'm no different. When I was a kid, I did bowl fast. I did bowl everything. I tried all these variations, so-called variations today. And in those days, we did not have such an exposure, what
yeah,
today's kids do have through the social media, digital media, through the televisions, the broadcasting. There are so many avenues which are now made open. In those days you had one or two options. But growing up, I was also bowling, experimenting with bowling fast. But when I was kid, I was not that tall. So obviously, and I was very skinny. So the
Yeah.
only option to fall back was to bowl spin because I could not sustain for long enough. And one of the coaches in schools then suggested me, why don't you try spin? And as a kid, the exuberance, enthusiasm is so high that you want to try anything and everything which is told you by any of the senior people. And like uh, that situation, I also experimented, and luckily I stuck to it. And thank God I stuck to it.
Can you just share an experience of, have you ever interacted with these guys like Vaughan and Muralidharan and all these legends of the game would be, and what are the especially the learnings that you have got from them, if any?
Obviously, I was fortunate to play against both of them.
Yeah.
And incidentally, Murli is still a very good friend of mine.
Okay.
Every opportunity which comes, we either interact, meet, have a good laugh, remember olden days, chat about it. There are so many social gatherings which happens nowadays, and Murli is also engaged with IPL, and then do visits Mumbai frequently. And a few times when I have visited Sri Lanka, I made it a point that we end up meeting for a cup of chai or something. So the idea is to, and I was lucky to play against Shane Warne in a side game for Mumbai against Australia, as well as for a test match as well. So knowing these bowlers and the uniqueness of these guys is their preparation. The way they used to prepare for a test match or a test series against an opposition always amazed me. The way they used to look at preparing for that series or for that test match. It was quite outstanding preparation as a
Yeah.
learning for me when I was just growing up. I remember a very small incident of Muralidharan. In
Okay.
97, Muralidharan was preparing to bowl that Dusra. So in nets,
Yeah,
there
which
used to be,
you later went on to master.
yeah, when in those days used to have Sri Lankan nets and Indian nets going
Yeah.
simultaneously. And I used to watch him bowl Dusra in the nets. But in the test matches, he didn't bowl first test match. So I happened to ask before the second test match, why are you not bowling? He said, I'm not feeling confident to introduce that into test match. So look at the preparatory thought for a champion bowler like Murli. Till the time he felt confident, he did not introduce, but he constantly kept on mastering that art
Yeah.
before he introduced that, and then he got so many wickets with that Dusra. But the idea is to see it with the close quarter itself is phenomenal. Likewise, when I saw Shane Warne bowl in at Wankhede or at CCI before the match, the way he used to prepare, the way he used to talk about it, the way he used to develop a particular ball, and I saw him bowling that flipper in
Yeah.
97, 98, that match which we played at CCI. He was working on that flipper so well, and he was trying to figure out different ways to get that flipper going, which can be deceptive. Such is the ability, you know, of preparation of these guys, super skilled people, to still be more hungry on working on specialized skills, which is required the highest level.
What makes Mumbai so much dominating in terms of domestic cricket, that are they as good as any international side when they face an opposition?
I think so, because the way Mumbai's cricketing structure is designed allows you an opportunity as a junior, as a young kid, to be very competitive and are
Yeah.
exposed to playing more matches. See, end of the
Yeah.
day, the more you spend time in the middle in a match situation, makes you a better player. Right from school tournament, there are more than 1,000 schools who play cricket in Mumbai.
Yeah.
There are almost like 300-500 clubs who play cricket in Mumbai. There are
Yeah.
like 25 to 75 companies who play cricket in Mumbai. If you
Yeah.
put together this as a structure, the kind of exposure and experience you get before you reach to first class cricket is fairly substantial. That allows you
Yeah.
to become more confident, that allows you to become more competitive, that allows you to start thinking about how you face, because you've gone through these challenges in the situations you've played before. So it's a journey which Mumbai allows you to be exposed and learn from all these situations. I think That's a great quality of Mumbai Cricket Association, developing this as a comprehensive structure to develop
Yeah.
every young cricketer. And if you are good at it, you will sail through. And if you're genuinely very good at it, you will end up playing for the country. And that's how Mumbai has produced more than 70 international cricketers.
Obviously, and now I'll just come back to your individual feats in first class cricket. The game I was talking about against Australia, you had a fantastic spell where you dismantled the Australian batting lineup, and yeah, I would. I would give you the opportunity to talk about it more because I think it is you who can describe it the best.
So I think it was a great match to play, be part of, because I was also fortunate to be part of the team, Indian team then, before that match happened. And Sachin Tendulkar, who was our captain and obviously the Indian team captain then, made sure that the Australians are hungry and they don't want to lose this series. And that's how the conversation started when Mumbai prepared to play against Australia, mighty Australians at CCI. And then there was a huge build-up of Sachin Tendulkar versus Shane Warne. And Sachin
Yeah,
had prepared really well to counter Shane Warne because he knew that one day he's going to come round the wicket to start making it difficult for Sachin. But he had already prepared. And that test match also, Sachin was preparing. He was anticipating that Shane Warne will come round the wicket, but he did not do that in the side game. But for me personally, that match is etched in my memory. And how? Because I was lucky to get a 5 wicket in the second innings, but I was a little disappointed that I was dropped from the Indian team immediately after getting a 5 wicket haul against the mighty Australians. And
yeah,
for me, I had got 2 wickets in the first innings also, so that
yeah,
made the tally of total 7 wickets in that particular match. But the showstopper of that entire match was obviously Sachin Tendulkar, who scored his first double hundred, first class double hundred, and what a innings he played in that match. I think the kind of shots he played was so good to see in that particular this thing. And for me, sharing that dressing room and understanding how his preparations are and how Sanjay, Sachin calmly prepared all of these things was so phenomenal as a learning. And then obviously compete against the mighty Australians, the great Steve Waugh, Mark Waugh, everybody were part of that series, and to bowl to
yeah.
them was absolutely special, extra special.
Coming back from moving from domestic cricket, we move now to the international cricket, and it would be really unfair if we don't include the famous Kolkata 2001 test in that, and the Madras test as well. So that series in itself, uh, you can write novels about it. So, and you were a part of the Madras test as well, and we know how Harbhajan spun his magic in that match. But what made it extra special was he also went on to finish the match for us, hitting those winning runs towards the points. So tell us the memories about that match.
See, the beauty of that test series was it was always the up and down of that series. India had lost the first test match at Wankhede. Then the first 2 days of that Kolkata test belonged to Australia. They were in
Yeah,
the game. India was followed on, and it was almost assumed that India is not going to come back in the series because the series will be lost. And Australia, Steve Waugh, it was this kind of a last frontier kind of a series which was scripted. And the way Rahul and Lakshman batted, and then Harbhajan finished the game on the last day, brought India back into the series. And I remember I'm getting a call after that, the last day of that test match, that I'm picked for the Madras test match.
yeah,
Obviously, immediately I flew in to Madras, Chennai now, and started preparing, knowing what to do. And the competition was intense because Harbhajan was at his peak in terms of the confidence, bowling the Australians out in both the innings and making sure that he's the force that Australia talked about. And the role was fairly defined for me, to support Harbhajan because he was the main wicket taker for, and it was Sairaj Bhautule and Samir Dige's debut also in that
yeah.
test match. And I remember, the first test match, the way Matthew Hayden batted, he got about double hundred in within no time.
100, yeah.
And I remember
But
getting ball
what happened in the next innings, sir?
he hitting the ball over my head for a couple of sixes. I still remember that as a memory. And
Yeah,
there was a, obviously for me as a bowler, I was wanting to get a wicket, but in that particular innings, I did not get a wicket. And I remember calling Sir Frank Tyson, who was my coach and mentor at that point of time, in the English fast bowler, then was settled in Australia. And I happened to call Frank sir, and I asked him, sir, are you watching the match? He said, yeah, of course I'm watching. But he asked me a question, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? I mean, you're not the bowler which I developed you. So I was like, what do you mean? You're not thinking. And that struck me, that I was actually not thinking about trying to get a wicket. He said, look, what is Matthew Eden trying to do? You're bowling into his zone where he's trying to sweep for everything. Why don't you try and bowl outside the off stump where he doesn't feel comfortable? And I tried that in the second innings, and I got a wicket caught brilliantly by Zahir Khan. And that actually turned things in India's favor. Because Matthew Eden was at that point of time high on form, and he was dominating. And then Harbhajan cleaned it up after that. But I remember one unique incident of the same test match when Harbhajan Singh and Samir Dighe were batting at the crease, and the only person in the dressing room padded was Nilesh Kulkarni. And in those days, Madras, the members pavilion had only one transparent grilled grills, if I say. And I hear a lot of people just talking to me and saying that, Nilesh, don't make this as another tie test match in Madras. Here I'm under pressure, thinking about how to go in that match. And then everybody as players were coming, Nilesh, you have to do it. Huh? We are depending on you. So you do it. So the pressure obviously increased. But thank God I did not get a chance to bat, because Harbhajan and Samir Dighe finished the match. But those 15-20 minutes or half an hour were extremely tense, and I felt that my one leg was about 100 kgs and another leg was 100 kgs. Because of pressure, not only because and when you're on the field, you know what you need to do as the best, and you will trust on that. But when you're inside and waiting to go on the field, the pressure increases tenfold. And I actually experienced that in that particular test match, because the series was on the line, and it was a historical series. It had a lot of significance in terms of Steve Waugh's last frontier, India wanting to come back. Post lot of negative things happened in Indian cricket, so India was rebuilding in those phases. Then Saurav Ganguly took over as a captain and just wanting to build a team. So there were so many positives in that series, and that made this particular thing extremely special. And for me to be part of that series, it's an everlasting memory.
Now that you have forayed into sports management, so playing on the field as an athlete, as a sports person, is a completely different thing. But sports management is something that goes around those players, around that game. So I will just quickly like to know about what is your perspective on sports management, and how did you get the inspiration to find yourself in such a space which is fairly not hunted more after, and this is fairly new, and particularly doing it in India is obviously a big feat. But what was your inflection point that made you realize, oh no, this is a good option that you can look after?
So blessing in disguise, I did not get an IPL contract to play IPL when I was almost finishing my active playing days in 2008. And there was a time where I'd gone to watch a match at DY Patil, where I saw a lot of foreigners managing an event of that magnitude and scale in India. And I was just chatting with my wife, and I actually happened to have a conversation, and I asked her, look, why can't we find professionals managing? And that point of time, the answer was no, because India did not have a formal structure of offering sports education in India. It is a very accepted and known concept in Western world, in the developed places, purely because worldwide, the business of sports and science of sport associates with the sporting annual properties. And in India, in form of IPL, India got its first sporting annual property to create a business of sport and a science of sport structures around it. Post IPL, now India has introduced 15 more sporting annual properties, which then open multiple doors for a lot of people who aspire to represent the country, but unfortunately for injuries, for form, selection, any other reasons, don't end up achieving that. but the desire to make a career in your liked and loved field, that
Yeah.
actually led me to introduce our institution IISM and create
Yeah.
the bandwidth of sports management and sports science professionals for the industry to actually look forward to having quality force working for them to and in at IISM we have a lot of other skills which we impart the management and the science side of all the streams, then expose our students for marketing, science, management, administration, event management, logistics, travel, data analytics in science space, biomechanics, strength and conditioning, trainer, high performance expert, nutritionist, psychologist. So there are so many avenues which are now getting established in India in a sports space. So for me, in a transitional phase, playing sport, this became my second most followed passion to make a
Yeah.
career. And the beauty is, when I was playing for a team. Today, when I'm a founder of ISM, when I see student pass out and make a successful career in sports, that is
Yeah.
even more satisfying for me because they done multiple roles successfully, whether doing it for Sports Authority of India, federations, bodies, or the broadcasters, private companies, even management companies. So it's very, very satisfying when you see the journey and a transition. And the way India has evolved in last 14, 15 years is so good to see in sports space. Just for your
Yeah.
information and for our viewers,
Yeah.
let's take a scenario of India host an Olympic.
Yeah.
India will require lakhs and lakhs of professionals in sports
Yeah.
management and sports science to manage,
Absolutely.
execute, spearhead, and take a leadership role in delivering all that at a world class standard event requires. And
Yeah.
these are the guys who will probably be the torch bearers and be the
Yeah.
heroes behind the scene for an event like World Cup or the Olympics to be more successful. Just to give you a simple analogy, there are more than 30,000 people work in IPL event.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a World Cup which just got concluded in India, 50 over World Cup, there were more than 15 to 20,000 people worked on an
Yeah.
event like Cricket World Cup. You know,
Yeah.
there was a national game held in Goa before
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
recently. There were more than 10,000 people worked on national games for it to be more successful. So these are the opportunities in different departments, different divisions for every aspiring sports professional to make a
Yeah.
successful career. And for me,
Yeah.
that is satisfaction.
Are there any incentives or promotions that the government is taking to take this field forward and attract more and more people towards it?
Of course, government is doing a lot. In fact, the Honorable Sports Minister, Mr. Anurag Thakur, announced that the Sports Ministry want to introduce 1,200 Sports Authority of India size centers all across India, and about
Yeah.
20 more high performance centers. And if you
Yeah.
talk about that, Olympic sport is about 47 sport. If every center starts hosting at least 15 to 20 sport, look at the kind of opportunities you will create as a manager, as an administrator, as a marketeer, as a high performance expert, as a nutritionist, as a trainer, as a strength and conditioning coach, as a data analytics expert. So many opportunities you will create, and this is
Yeah.
what government is doing, and this is happening at the national level. Every state is coming up with their district sport complexes, which obviously will cater to a lot of athletes for who are developing, who want to make a successful career. So these are the areas and the avenues for playing Olympic sport. With regards to cricket, you have all the state teams and then sub teams into organization who are exposing them. With IPL's introduction, you've got 10 teams which are creating opportunities for you to work successfully as a
Yeah.
manager, as a logistic manager, in any different capacity, as an administrator, as a marketeer. So for me, this is India is at a sunrise point of
Yeah.
in a sports sector. And if anybody who's interested in making a career, this is a phenomenal time to be entering into this space.
Now, especially after the 2020 lockdown era, we have seen that a lot of unconventional career options have been chosen by a lot of young enthusiasts, because now we see players are becoming like professional esports athlete in India. Playing on your phone is like you're just wasting your time, but people are now actually making a lot of money out of it, and probably more than what their daddies earned.
E-gaming has evolved, e-gaming has improved, and there are a lot of career opportunities in this space also. And like you said, people are making money, but those who are doing professionally are making money.
Yeah,
Those who are managing it professionally are making money.
yeah,
For amateur,
obviously.
it's not something where you have to do it recreationally. But
Yeah,
coming to your point of, where are the careers, I personally feel, the speed in which the sport is growing in India, there are
yeah,
so many career avenues and opportunities which are getting established, right from a
yeah,
startup to a mainstream corporate. I think that's
yeah,
something which is a huge, huge paradigm shift which we have seen during our tenure of existence of ISM in India.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just conclude that with two lines.
yeah,
For all those people who aspire to make, who has a passion for sport and want to make a career in sport, make
yeah,
sure that you give your best when you're playing that sport, because that's your first love, that's your first passion. And
yeah,
after playing your sport, if you want to make a career, consider
yeah,
ISM for your career choice, because you will still continue to grow in your liked and loved profession to make a
yeah,
successful career in this
yeah,
loved and liked field. And thank you,
yeah,
Crick Tracker, for having me on the show and allowing me
yeah,
to speak about my cricketing journey and my post cricketing journey introducing ISM to the world of sports management and sports science professional. Thank you very much.